Hi, I'm Ashley Tadikonda, and I'm a sophomore accounting major here at the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland. I'm very excited to have a conversation with Corinne Dougherty from KPMG about her accounting journey today. Corinne, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with me today.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
So could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I was born and raised in Maryland, DC suburbs, actually not that far from campus. And I came here, I went to school here at University of Maryland, graduated with an accounting degree, and then right out of college started with KPMG.
Wow.
And I've been with KPMG 20 years. So I'm primarily focused on our audit practice. I grew up in the firm providing financial statement audits of federal agencies, being based in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
That's kind of a given. But then recently, over the last few years, I've really focused around providing audit services to clients related to environmental, social, and governance topics. I'm married and I live with my husband in Washington, D.C.
That's so nice, yeah. So you mentioned that you obviously started straight into accounting. So why did you choose accounting?
So when I started at Smith, I thought I was going to go to finance because back when I started in the early 2000s, that was the degree that everyone was getting.
Yeah.
And then I took my first accounting class sophomore year and everything just clicked for me. I actually loved it, which I know is kind of dorky to say, but I realized then that I wanted to switch my major from finance to accounting.
Yeah, that's honestly a really similar story to me. I started as I started as finance, and I took my accounting class, and I really liked it, and I just like doubled up.
Oh, good
with
for
it,
you.
Yeah. So how you've gotten your CPA? Incredible. I've heard some interesting stories about the exam. So how has getting your CPA helped you in your career, and what value have you gotten out of that?
Sure. Well, it was interestingly enough, my dad is also a CPA.
Oh.
So once I graduated, every time I talked to my dad, he's like, "You got to get it. You got to get it. You're going to be able to go so much farther in your career." And he was absolutely right. It definitely was challenging studying, especially coming right out of school, but I would have not progressed within the firm had I not had my CPA. So I wouldn't have made manager, senior manager, or partner not having it. So it's definitely something that I recommend to all accounting students. If that's ultimately what they want to do upon graduation is going to an accounting field.
Yeah. Okay, so you've mentioned obviously the CPA helped you grow within the firm. So why did you choose why did you choose KPMG to start with?
Sure. Well, when I was here at Smith, it was kind of really early in my journey, and I actually just attended a KPMG event. So in my intermediate class, one of the professors was, at the time, we would hand out flyers. And so he handed out a flyer for a KPMG event that I just was like, well, why not? Let me try it out, because I hadn't yet started thinking about where I wanted to go and work after graduation. I went to the KPMG event. Then from there, they offered me the externship, which it was 20 years ago, or over 20 years ago. It's a little bit different than now. So I ended up getting the externship with the firm, and then from that, I got my internship. So I never really looked at and interviewed with any of the other schools because it was kind of early in the process. Yeah. And I really loved the externship, and then had a phenomenal experience as an intern. And then once I finished my internship, was given a full-time offer at the firm. Wow. So it was really kind of an easy decision, but I think the reason why it was an easy decision was just the culture at the firm, and I really did feel like that was the place that I wanted to work at after graduation.
Yeah. No, I've obviously been at KPMG events, and like you guys are just so nice. Like the environment is great there.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
And you've mentioned you've been there for 20 years, which is a lot less common nowadays to stay there. So what was your decision process in staying with the firm as opposed to exploring other ones?
Yeah, well, when I was in college, I didn't know what to expect. So my dad, like I mentioned, was a CPA, but he never worked at a public accounting firm. So I really didn't know what to expect. So going into the firm, I just remember my professor saying, if you get, well, it was Big 5 experience at the time, but if you get Big 4 experience, you can really go anywhere. Just the experiences that you gain will help you throughout your career. So I didn't really have, when I started, kind of a long-term plan of I wanted to make partner. Definitely not when I started, but I really liked what I was doing. And then it got to a point where I was up for a manager. I was like, I can't really imagine doing anything else. Like, I really did enjoy what I was doing. I felt a sense of purpose. I worked with really great partners and senior managers that I looked up to I thought, it was probably around the time I made manager, where I thought, oh, well, I'm actually good at what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. Maybe let's work towards being partner. Yeah. So I just really, I guess to sum it up, I really just enjoyed my experiences at the firm and didn't consider going elsewhere.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, so you've obviously been honored by endless honors, the Greater
Thanks.
Washington Society of CPAs as a woman to watch, the Accounting and Financial Women's Alliance as an emerging leader, and now obviously you're a partner at KPMG. So with those like endless honors and accolades, what's something that you think makes you stand out, or something that you've done that's helped you grow and, you know, be recognized within the accounting sphere?
Yeah, well, I just have to say I'm very fortunate to, like I said, have worked with really great mentors and partners that I looked up to that I wanted to emulate. And so that's really around how I valued my work ethic. So, I mean, really my work ethic started with my parents and when I was going through school here at Smith. And so I think really just having a very strong work ethic and having strong mentors and partners to look up to. Yeah. And you know, I got those awards because my partners advocated for me. So that is really huge. But then also, I think what was really important for me, and I think anyone going into accounting and then your career after graduation, is a lifelong desire to learn. And so throughout your career, there's going to be instances of things where you need to learn, especially in accounting, of keeping up with the accounting standards. So having that learning mindset was really important for me. And then that led to teaching internal training within the firm, developing internal training, and then ultimately, you know, I became an adjunct professor externally. And so that whole learning process, in order to be able to educate someone on an accounting topic, you need to know it really well. So it definitely helped my technical knowledge, but then it also helped my just public speaking and communications, which is really important as well.
That's really great. Yeah, I think I also like try to like learn a lot, and when I'm like interviewing with companies, like that's something that's really important, that there's continuous learning and that you're not like stagnant in your job.
Yep.
Yeah. So you obviously are now part of the national leadership for KPMG ESG. So now you focus on ESG reporting. So could you tell us about KPMG ESG and how you transitioned from just audit into this?
Sure. So KPMG ESG, we formed that in 2020, and that's really a holistic solution that brings in our multidisciplinary model as well as our global solutions to really tap into our individuals and our professionals' purpose to help companies along their ESG journey. And so I started out it was kind of like nights and weekends type, in addition to my financial statement audit experience, providing ESG assurance services even well before 2020. And then with all of just the regulatory push, just the influx of companies starting to report on ESG metrics coming from the desire of investors wanting to see that information. In the audit practice, we formed the ESG Center of Excellence. And so I'm one of the partners helping to lead that, where we have partners and professionals really kind of increasing our demand and our capabilities around helping our clients on their ESG journey. So I started out doing it just as a little kind of side job of my normal financial statement audit work. And then that has morphed into what we're doing now, 3 years later.
Yeah. That's like honestly like very inspiring to me, like your work, like that's something I'm so interested in, and like, I don't know, having that impact is so like meaningful. So obviously ESG is a very new and growing field. So what are some of your main responsibilities and some of the challenges that you face?
Sure. Like you said, ESG is such a new and growing field, and it has completely changed over the last couple of years. And so now the focus really is around regulatory reporting. So where companies are starting to have to report on, for example, their greenhouse gas metrics or like DEI metrics. And so keeping up with that regulatory environment is quite challenging because there's regulations coming from the US federal government, from states now in the United States, as well as internationally. And so one of the things that I really focus on in my day-to-day is helping educate our clients about all of the different regulatory environments, and that's going to impact them in terms of their reporting. So a lot of it is education, but also educating our professionals in terms of providing those services, and then providing services to clients to help them get ready for when they're going to have to ultimately start reporting. And also, like in all of that is also providing assurance to companies where they're already starting to report on their ESG metrics.
Yeah. So obviously Big Four, very big accomplishment, but a big topic among Big Four is work-life balance. So could you comment on your experience with that and how you've been able to maintain balance?
Yeah, I would say work-life balance is a term that gets thrown around a lot. I like to say integration, really, because it's integrating your life with work, and it's sometimes you can't kind of separate the two. I would say when I started in my career, honestly, it was really challenging for me. And it's something that I think is very individualized because you really need to focus on what are the things outside of work that are most important to you, whether that's spending time with friends and family, exercising, travel, like going to sporting events, going to concerts, whatever that is. It's finding out truly what is important to you and then seeing how you can integrate that into your work schedule. And there are times, especially as an auditor, when you're in busy season and that is unfortunately the focus, but trying to make sure that even when you're in busy season, that you're still spending time with family or friends. It may not be as much as you would like, but I think it's really once you're able to figure out what truly is important to you and then figuring out how to fit that in, it gets easier. And I would say definitely the more experience I had, it got a lot easier for me. And so now I'm not nearly as stressed out trying to, say, balance everything than I was when I started my career.
Okay, well, that's inspiring. Good to know. Yeah. Obviously, you do kind of more of a niche role in accounting. So what's something that you look forward to doing every day?
Every day at work?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that is really important to me that's twofold is the work that I'm doing for ESG and then working with my teams. So from an ESG perspective, I think for me, it's really important to find purpose in what I'm doing and aligning my own personal core values and purpose with what I'm doing. And so for me, ESG really is important to me because in my own personal life, sustainability is important. Climate change is something that's really important to me, as well as all of the different, say, social issues that are happening today in our country and in the world. So being able to actually help companies figure out what their journey is around ESG and tapping into my own purpose, that to me has been really fulfilling and really rewarding. And then the second piece is my teams. Like we talked about earlier, like why I've stayed at the firm and the culture is, I mean, my teams are phenomenal. And I'm so just impressed with their adherence to core values and treating everyone with decency and respect and people being able to bring their whole selves to work. And they're just such hardworking individuals that I am really fortunate to be able to work with my teams. And I joke with my teams that they make me look good, but they really are just phenomenal. And so I think being able to work on ESG alongside with my team members that I respect so much and enjoy working with, I think for me, that's what gets me up every day. It gets excited to come into the office.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Like that's all you can really hope for in a job. And I think like especially touching to your piece about like how important ESG is to you in your personal life, like that's something that speaks to me a lot, especially like when I heard about ESG accounting, I was like, wow, like sustainability is so important to me, environmental, climate change, social issues. So like hearing that you kind of merge accounting and ESG was just incredible to hear about. Yeah. So obviously you love your job, but with AI and the ever-growing presence of technology, a lot of people are worried about losing their jobs. So what do you have to say about accountants' jobs in that?
Yeah, so our firm surveyed recently a number of finance professionals, really kind of asking the question about, well, how is technology and, for example, artificial intelligence, how will that impact you? And from a financial reporting perspective, I think it's going to have the opposite effect. I think it's actually going to have individuals really want to join the field because AI can impact all aspects of financial reporting, but really helping ease the burden of finance professionals and really helping them be a little bit more efficient in their jobs, making sure that the quality of the data is stronger than maybe that it has been. And so as auditors also, that's going to help us in the audit in terms of being a lot more efficient and asking more of maybe the right questions and digging down a little bit deeper than maybe without it. So I actually do think because of the influx of technology and accounting, I actually think that could be a driver to bringing more students, professionals into the profession.
Wow, that's great to hear as someone who wants to go into accounting.
Sure.
Yeah. So is there any piece of advice that you would like to leave to students who are considering a future in accounting?
Yeah, I would say it's really important to identify mentors or sponsors when you start your career. And those individuals can change over time depending on your goals that you want to achieve. So I think it's really important to identify those individuals that align with your goals, and then just asking them to be your mentor. It can be kind of intimidating and overwhelming, but trust me, when people have asked me to be their mentor, I've been incredibly flattered. So I think having that mentorship or sponsorship throughout your career to kind of help you navigate, because there's only so much that you know when you're first starting out, whether it's at a firm or within an industry. And so I think having a mentor is really important. But then going that next step of saying, okay, once I've identified what are my short-term and long-term goals, then making sure that whether it's your mentor or your performance manager actually knows what your goals are, so then they can help you and guide you and maybe even help you get that right experience in order to achieve those goals. So I would say having a mentor, but also not being afraid to voice what your goals are in order to have those mentors and sponsors help you along the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to take that personally. So finally, do you have any interesting stories from your career?
Sure. Well, as an auditor, a lot of times you need to travel for auditing your clients and going to different cities. And one of my clients, they have some operations all over the country and kind of in maybe I would say small towns. And I was driving from one site to another with the partner that I was working with, because at the time I was a senior manager. And I was driving and he was in the passenger side of the car, and I'm driving along the highway in Utah and I scream, Corinne! And because there is a town in Utah named Corinne, spelled exactly the same way as my name, and my name's not that common. And he corrects me and he goes, it's actually pronounced Corinne. So I thought that was just a funny...
He said you're wrong.
Yeah, he was like, so apparently my name is pronounced wrong. But on the way back from that site, we actually stopped off and I got a picture. We went into the town and I got a picture right next to the town sign of Corinne. So that's a fun, interesting fact.
Yeah. I need to find a town now that says Ashley so I can do that.
Yeah, or maybe a street sign.
Yeah, that.
I've seen, actually, there's another, for that one client when I was traveling in South Carolina, there's a town and there's a street sign that's named Dougherty. So I've seen a town named Corinne and then a street sign named Dougherty. So.
Wow. That's your land.
Yeah.
The most luck I've had is like keychains, because everyone's named Ashley.
Yeah, see, I never had that as a kid.
Oh, really?
Because Corinne is just not a popular name, so I never had like a mug or a keychain or anything. Yeah, so that's
like
why
the one lucky thing I have. Like,
yeah.
There's always a keychain.
So that's why I freaked out when I saw Corinne, the town in Utah. Or Corinne, I should say.
Corinne. Thank you so much, Corinne, for sharing your story with me today. This has been really helpful in seeing the great career opportunities in accounting. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Ashley.